Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores coming with a Week 1 preview against the Los Angeles Chargers. I have 5 big matchups, 3 X factors, and 1 score prediction. Of course, we got to talk about the history between the Chargers and the Washington football team briefly, just to see who's winning the overall historical matchup, who's won the most games between the two. And of course, I got to give y'all the injury update for both teams as well. This is a full breakdown and preview of this Chargers game, and again, a prediction at the end for you. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, I'm so excited that football is back, man. Y'all don't understand. Again, I'm trying to run through these fantasy leagues. I want to at least get 5 done. So if you're a channel member, please go to the community tab and respond to that post. I'm trying to get y'all filled in. In the Friday league, we're doing a Friday live stream to make sure everybody that's usually there for the streams wants to be a part of it, and then we'll draft Saturday night. The channel members, I'm trying to draft tomorrow night, as in Wednesday, 8 p.m. So definitely get to that community tab if you can. And then everybody else, I'm trying to squeeze in a couple of fantasy leagues for that as well. Won't be able to do the typical like 10 that I do. I was hoping to do more this year. I'm gonna have to do less because I'm just super busy and we just don't even have time with a game happening Thursday. I'm already drafting after that for the Friday stream, and then our game is Sunday. But I don't know, maybe if people are willing to do it, maybe we do a draft like after week 1, and then we just accept the fact that you'll get whatever results you get from week 1 already happening, something like that. So we're gonna see. Again, I have so many film sessions to do, so many videos to work on before this Sunday game, so I'm just trying to find time for fantasy leagues. The part that's taking the most time is just getting everybody in it, really. So I may just do like I did last year, just a sudden live stream. Everybody that pulls up, we're just gonna fill people in. So just make sure you have that bell hit next to that subscription button so you get that immediate notification when I just start up a random live stream. We're gonna just start filling people in. I'll already have a time and a day situated, and then if you want to participate, pull up. It will more than likely be the same day that I hold the live stream, because we just got to try to knock out as many as we can. But without further ado, man, let's get it. Alright, so first of all, injuries. Let's go ahead and get that out the way. And it's pretty positive news for both sides. As far as the Washington football team, Curtis Samuel looks good to go with this groin injury. It looks like he will more than likely play against the Chargers. He may not be 100% himself, but through reports, it sounds like he'll still be heavily involved in the offense. But they don't want to do too much to risk him re-aggravating this injury, but it looks like he should be ready to go. And then other than Curtis Samuel, we don't really have too many injuries. It looks like Torrey McTyer with his concussion and James Smith-Williams with his shin injury should also be good to go against the Chargers, which is good news. Torrey McTyer is our depth corner, and James Smith-Williams, like I explained in my first depth chart against the Chargers video, will actually play some. Unlike a lot of other position groups like offensive line, the guy further down the depth chart for defensive line is going to play. Chase Young and Montez Sweat will not play every snap. So we need James Smith-Williams to be healthy more than we need a Dax Milne at receiver or any of these backup offensive linemen. And then as far as the Chargers go, they have no notable injuries at all. Just watch out for Derwin James, all-pro safety that's just been very injury prone so far in his career. He played every game his 2018 rookie season, but has only played 5 since in the past 2 years. So he looks fully healthy to go right now, though, which is good. I mean, I root for Derwin James. I like Derwin James a lot, just not today. And then historically, looking back at the past, Washington has the edge. With the 11 games we've played the Chargers since they've been a thing, we beat them 7 times, they beat us 4 times. But recently, the Chargers have had the advantage in a strong way. The last 5 times we've played them, they've won 4 of them. And the only one that we won in overtime. And that was in 2013. Before that streak, we were 6-0 against them. The first time the Chargers ever got a win against us was 2001. And again, they've won all but one of the 5 matchups we've played against them since 2001. So recent history shows it's really ugly for us right now. But the last time we played them in 2017, we got embarrassed. 30-13. Granted, we were terrible back then. They were better. I mean, they were still Phillip Rivers and all of those guys, and we were not this Rivera era built team, but we'll see. We both finished the season 7-9 last year. The difference is 7-9 finished third in the AFC West, 7-9 finished first in the NFC East. Just to put it into perspective how bad our division was last year. Now moving on to matchups. I have 5 matchups, 3 X factors, 1 score prediction. Again, starting with the matchups. The first one is Scott Turner versus Derwin James and the Chargers secondary. They have a really good secondary, especially when Derwin James is healthy. They already have Chris Harris, who's a little past his prime, but still good. Uchenna Nwasu, who's also pretty good on the other outside corner. They're the ones that took Asante Samuel Jr., who I think is going to end up being really good. They're also the ones that took Nasir Adderley at free safety. I forgot they were the ones that took him from me. And again, Derwin James is strong safety. That's why I isolated him amongst that secondary. It's a good secondary, but Derwin James is leading that secondary easily. And I feel like Scott Turner has to game plan against that. That's just not up to Ryan Fitzpatrick and our receivers to figure it out on their own. I'm going to need Scott Turner to scheme these guys open, especially like a Logan Thomas, which he already does, and I think he'll do a good job of it, but that's definitely a matchup to watch, because it's obvious that the receivers need to go out there and get open against the secondary, but it's also important that Scott Turner draws up the right play designs, the right personnel groupings to take advantage of this secondary, which again is really good, but I think our skill positions, wide receiver, tight end, and running back, are going to be explosive. They're going to be deadly. They're going to be matchup nightmares for any defense we go against. And I'm just excited, man. I'm super excited that football is here. Number 2, Samuel Cosmi versus Joey Bosa. That's going to be huge. Charles Leno versus Joey Bosa honestly worries me more than Samuel Cosmi versus Joey Bosa, but I do want to hone in on Samuel Cosmi because I'm really excited about his potential. The fact that he's already way ahead of schedule is super encouraging. First of all, wasn't even sure if he was going to start at right tackle week 1. And then the fact that he claimed that starting right tackle spot before the preseason was even finished. I mean, the third preseason game, he sat with the starters. And he already looks like a dominant run blocker. But Joey Bosa's specialty is pass rushing. And right now, Samuel Cosmi still needs to work on some foot technique, not lunging forward. He needs to get his hand placement right. He needs to learn how to aim it better, more consistently. Once he does that, he's going to be a Pro Bowl level tackle. The potential is all there. There's no shortage of strength. There's no shortage of speed, power, explosiveness. Anything athleticism-wise, he checks all of the boxes. Just needs to get all of the technique stuff down. I think we'll be able to run the ball against the Chargers because we have some great run blockers. On that right side, Chase Roulier, Brandon Sheriff, Samuel Cosmi, and then if we want to throw a physical blocker like Samus Reyes over there to load up on that side, I think we should be able to run the ball fairly easily. But pass protection is where I'm really keeping my eye on Samuel Cosmi, especially going against a Joey Bosa. I mean, what a welcome to the league. Now, I don't think it could be any worse than having to block against Chase Young and Montez Sweat all day, but Joey Bosa is still one of the premier pass rushers in the NFL, so this is going to be a great week 1 test for Samuel Cosmi. I mean, an immediate check to see where he is in the NFL. Matchup number 3, bro, these Washington football team linebackers and strong safeties versus Austin Eckler. Because he is a running back, so our defensive line is going to matter a lot as far as stopping him, but he's heavily involved in the passing game. So much so, I try to get him in as many fantasy leagues as possible, especially PPR, which means it's going to be our linebackers and our strong safeties like Landon Collins, mainly Cameron Curl, that's going to be matched up against him and try to mitigate his impact. Austin Eckler is just one of those guys that's going to produce no matter how great a defense is. It's just up to us to suppress that. Again, I don't really think you can lock up an Austin Eckler. He's just too explosive. And then now that he has a Justin Herbert to throw him the ball, which makes it difficult to just stack the box and focus on stopping the running back, you have to honor Justin Herbert in that passing game as well. And then again, Austin Eckler is a good running back and also a great pass catcher. So Jack Del Rio, you need to get our linebackers and our strong safeties in the right spots to be able to stop them. And defensive line, you got to help us out. You got to get to the quarterback as soon as possible. But a lot of the time, Austin Eckler is out here catching screens and things like that. We got to be ready. Our guys on that second level have to read these plays before they happen and obliterate these screen plays or these wheel routes coming out of the backfield. Austin Eckler is a deadly, explosive weapon for the Chargers, and we have to stop him if we hope to win this game. Number 4, the Washington secondary versus Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Jared Cook. Remember, they picked up Jared Cook as their tight end. He's been with the New Orleans Saints for a while now. And he's not a Travis Kelce, he's not a George Kittle, he's really not even a Logan Thomas, but he's still somebody you definitely want to game plan for and make sure you take him out of the game. Focus on Austin Ekeler too much. Keenan Allen, with him being their number one receiver, Jared Cook could end up having a good game if we leave him unchecked. So our Washington secondary, I mean, this is a good test for them. Newly acquired William Jackson, I believe he has top 7, top 5 cornerback potential in this league, especially with the defensive line he's playing behind. But you got to go out there and prove it. And it's been reported that he's struggling a little bit with understanding the Jack Del Rio system. It's taking him a little while to catch up. He's a pure man cover corner, but now Jack Del Rio's asking him to run some zones, potentially even blitz quite a bit to get into the backfield. So things have become more complicated for him. He's used to just being like, okay, the number one receiver on the other team, I'm just going to check him all day, follow him wherever he goes, travel with him, and just take him out of the game. But now he has to do more than that. And it may take him a while for him to get fully comfortable with that. And then, of course, Kendall Fuller is going from our number one corner to number 2, maybe even kind of number 3, with him potentially moving to the slot with Benjamin St-Juste stepping up as potentially our second outside corner. And I'm ready to see what he can do, if he can prove himself. And it makes sense. Keenan Allen is their number one receiver. And with Keenan Allen being their number one receiver, it makes sense for William Jackson to cover him. And with Mike Williams being their second receiver and him being 6'4", Benjamin St-Juste is the right guy to cover him. So I feel like we have a really good cornerback situation to where Kendall Fuller in the slot can cover all of the speedy guys. William Jackson can cover any number 1, whether they're big or small, but I prefer him on the faster guys. And Benjamin St-Juste can just try to erase any of the bigger guys, like a Mike Evans when we play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and in this case, a Mike Williams. And luckily for us, it's week 1, so Benjamin St-Juste is not as good as he's gonna ever be. He's only gonna get better and better, and I'm happy that the bigger receiver in this case is the second receiver. If the bigger receiver was the better receiver, I'd be a little bit worried about putting Benjamin St-Juste on the best receiver on the other team right now. But luckily for us, the tallest receiver, Mike Williams, is the second option. So thank goodness. It's still gonna be quite a bit of a challenge for Benjamin St-Juste, but again, it's not like he's going against Mike Evans, Julio Jones. I think this is a nice little, let's see where you're at, Benjamin St-Juste intro into the NFL. Now, Keenan Allen is a tall receiver himself, and he's taller than D-Hop, but he's not in that Mike Evans, Mike Williams range that I feel like Benjamin St-Juste would be the better option to cover him. Then matchup number 5, and the most important one, which is why I saved it for last, man, Chase Young versus Rashawn Slater. That is going to be box office. First of all, I think that's very important because that's going to determine whether or not we can get to Justin Herbert, and Justin Herbert is a great quarterback already. We have to get to him early and often in order to win this game, point blank period. But on top of that, everybody's talking all of this trash about how Rashawn Slater bullied Chase Young that time that they faced off in college. And I'm pretty sure Chase Young is hearing all of that noise. And if there's going to be anybody that Chase Young is the most motivated to dominate against this season, it's got to be Rashawn Slater. People are literally on Twitter showing clips about Rashawn Slater stopping Chase Young like that's about to happen in the NFL. Andrew Thomas did a good job against Chase Young in high school. Now look at them. So I'm expecting Chase Young, if anything, to dominate just because he's a better player. Also, this is his first time being fully healthy going into week 1. He wasn't really fully healthy until like week 8 last year, and it showed in his production. So now he's fully healthy and, if anything, super motivated. He's already a highly motivated guy, self-motivated guy, but then now there's just this extra outside pressure and motivation for him to really show out week 1. And again, back to the basics, we need Chase Young to win that matchup because we have to get to Justin Herbert early and often. But on top of that, that matchup is going to be so fun to watch. I'm probably going to do a whole film session on it after the game, just specifically Chase Young versus Rashawn Slater, because we got to see how that rematch went down. I got to take a look at that under the microscope. Now, my 3 X factors. Number 1, the Chargers are rusty after no preseason. Like, none of their big-time players practice in the preseason. Most notably, Justin Herbert, their starting quarterback, Austin Ekeler, who we've talked about, their starting running back, and Keenan Allen, their best wide receiver. Like, none of the really good players played in the preseason. That was just the strategy they're going with into the regular season. They prefer to be rusty than to allow anybody to get hurt in the preseason, and I respect it. But it's kind of crazy for them not to play at all. I mean, Pat Mahomes played quite a bit in the preseason. A lot of teams, franchise quarterbacks, and their best players played in the preseason. I mean, we were confused as to why the starters didn't play only in the 3rd preseason game. Our starters played some in the 1st and the 2nd, and when the 3rd came along and our starters didn't play then, we were confused as fans then. Just imagine being a fan of the Chargers and you haven't seen your starters since 8 months ago, like at all, other than training camp practices. And I think that's going to be to our advantage. I think the Chargers are one of the best teams to catch week 1 in the NFL. The Cowboys with the Dak Prescott situation, is he even going to be fully healthy for week 1? And then, of course, since he hasn't done much in the offseason because of his injuries, he's going to be rusty as well. Joe Burrow barely played in the preseason. He may have thrown like a pass or two. So I think the Chargers, the Bengals, the Cowboys, maybe I'm missing somebody, but those are easily some of the top teams that you would want to face in week 1 because they're going to be super rusty. I mean, it may not be till halftime till they look like they even show some semblance of life in their offense, especially with how dominant our defense is going to be. So I would definitely prefer to play the Chargers week 1 than in the middle of the season. This was the best time to catch them lacking. And I think it is going to be a major factor into the game. I think the Chargers as an organization, once they decided that they were not going to play their starters at all in the preseason, they just accepted, well, week 1, we're going against the Washington football team anyway. We're going to go out there and try to win this game, of course, but we did not put all our eggs in one basket in trying to win this game. That was not our main focus this preseason. We just wanted to make it out of the preseason healthy. And I can't blame them for that. But it's going to cost you at least a half of productive and efficient football on both sides of the ball, at least. Number 2, Fitzpatrick has to limit his turnovers. This is probably going to be the X factor for a lot of games. Probably all of them, technically. Even if I may not bring it up, this is definitely one of them. Fitzpatrick has to limit his turnovers in order to give us a chance to win. First of all, I feel like we're the overall better team than the Chargers. Just top to bottom, offense and defense. They have the better quarterback. I feel like we have the better rest of the team up and down. I feel like offensive line, definitely defense overall. I feel like skill positions, if anything, are neck and neck. I just feel like we have more depth where they have a little bit more star power. But I definitely would take Logan Thomas over Jared Cook. And I'm really excited about John Bates and Samus Reyes. Again, I feel like our offensive line is better as well. So with us being the better team, just don't give them chances to win this game. Don't bail them out. Let's just play our game, dominate on defense, run the ball. You make explosive plays when you need to, but don't force things too much and end up just giving them the ball. Because now that our special teams is finally improved, which is my third X factor, turnovers is the only way I really see them having great starting field positioning at all in this game. Because again, X factor number 3, Dustin Hopkins and this improved special teams, man. We're going to start with the special teams first because I was already talking about it. Plus, I just don't have the heart to talk about Dustin Hopkins right this second. But again, don't turn the ball over because I think our special teams is finally going to be special. I mean, we've already had one of the best punters in the NFL in Tress Way, so that helped us flip field positioning right there. But now our coverage team should continue to be solid. They're only getting better. But most importantly, our return game may finally have not only a dependable guy, but some explosive guys back there as well. We have DeAndre Carter and Jared Patterson starting on kickoffs, and DeAndre Carter starting on punts. And DeAndre Carter is going to easily be the best punt returner we've had since Jamison Crowder. Easily. I don't even think it's going to be close. So I'm really excited about the fact that now we'll be able to give our offense better field positioning from the return game as well. Because for the past couple of years, I mean, when teams punt it to us, where they punt it is usually where our offense starts. Now we can stop a team at the 50-yard line. They kick it to our 20. We may be able to return it to the 40. Like, that's just unheard of for the Washington football team recently. To be able to start with field positioning at the 40, and it's not because of a defensive forced turnover. So I'm really excited about this special teams, man. And then lastly, with X Factor for Dustin Hopkins, man, you got to come out here and make these kicks, bro. Everybody's going to be rusty. Again, I feel like the Chargers are going to be more rusty, but we saw Ryan Fitzpatrick in that Bengals preseason game. We saw the entire preseason in general. The starting offense couldn't score a touchdown. We couldn't convert a 4th and 1 with a running play. We just couldn't do much in the red zone at all. So we're going to need you to make these kicks. I expect us to kick quite a bit of field goals early in this season because our offense and our red zone efficiency just isn't there just yet. We're explosive. I think we're going to have a lot of highs, but I think we're going to have some lows as well. And I don't see us being very consistent early on until everything gels. Now, by the time we get to the middle of the season, I think we will be one of the more explosive offenses in the NFL, arguably the most explosive. I did a whole video breaking that down, how and why and all of that. You can go check that out. But I think early on, as we saw with that Bengals preseason game, our offense may struggle with efficiency and consistency. I think we still will have some great highlights against the Chargers, but will we be able to put it together enough to score touchdowns rather than just moving the ball up and down the field consistently? And I'm not sure about that. So Dustin Hopkins, we're going to need you to make some 30-yarders, some 40-yarders, maybe even a 50. He's a huge X factor in this game, which I feel like will be relatively close. And then finally, my one score prediction, I have us winning 23-13. That is my official prediction. Again, I think this is going to be a field goal heavy game. One, because I think our defense is going to be great and we're going to force field goals out of the Chargers. I think they'll be able to move the ball quite a bit against us, and I think towards the end of the game, they may finally break one loose, like a big run and play, a big pass and play for like a touchdown or something. But I think overall our defense is going to do a good job of bottling them up. Again, especially since they're rusty. Maybe if this were week 8, it'll be a different prediction. But I think them being so rusty is going to factor in heavily into this game. I'm not going to lie. But again, with our offense looking rusty as well, maybe not as rusty as what the Chargers offense is going to look like, but I'm still banking on Dustin Hopkins to not be terrible. And with 23 points, that means Dustin Hopkins would be making 3 field goal kicks along with 2 extra points. And I'm gonna need him to deliver on that. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And as always, man, please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. Of course, big shouts out to all of my supporters. Big shouts out to everybody that donates to the channel. A special shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. Man, I'm so excited we have football back, man. My Georgia Bulldogs when they got that dub against Clemson. I told y'all we would too. I was telling y'all all offseason I'm not going to do too much talking, but we're clearly the better team. They just have the better quarterback potentially. And it's sad too because Georgia is literally like the Washington football team. Arguably the best defense in the entire league. A great punter. A questionable field goal kicker, great skill position players, potentially a great offensive line. It's just the quarterback holding us back. It's crazy how many parallels Georgia has to the Washington football team this year. It's amazing. At this point, I think it's my fault for rooting for both teams. Maybe it's me that's causing this. Or maybe once the Washington football team finally gets a good kicker, my Georgia will finally get a good kicker, or vice versa. Maybe it takes one of them to get it right for the other team to get it right. Maybe they're just attached in some weird magical voodoo way that we just don't know. But that's the end of this video, man. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.